Ramblin Man here. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I'm ready to talk about this. So, if you've watched any news or heard on the radio, saw on the internet, you probably heard of Leah Thomas. And the reason that's such a big name right now is because it has to do with women's sports. Leah Thomas, formerly known as Will Thomas, competed at the University of Pennsylvania and still does compete at the University of Pennsylvania. Only the last 3 years, she had competed as a man, Will Thomas. Went under transition in the last year and a half or so and is now considered by some to be a woman. She likes to call herself a woman, and she competes as a woman. Because in the sports, like I said, by NCAA rules, as long as you've been in transition for over 12 months, then you're allowed to compete as a woman. This is where it becomes a problem. If you want to be transgender, that's up to you. Do whatever you want to do. You have that right. In America, you have that right. But here's where it's an issue. Because you have women that from being little girl, just like boys, I mean, if you're a swimmer and as a kid, and not like on all sports, you get better and better by doing, not by just, you know what, I think I'll be an athlete today. That's not the norm. So most people have practiced and trained their whole lives to be great at what they do. And this year, University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school, has what would be considered one of their better teams. Now, in Ivy League, they're not as good across the board normally as a state school or bigger schools, because a lot of people are not going there to do swimming at an Ivy League school. They're going to go somewhere where there's a big swim program or something like that. But Will Thomas, let's get back on subject here. Will Thomas, in 2019, so 2 years ago, was second team All-American on the swim team for the Ivy League. All right, so not on a top team, but still second team All-American Ivy League, very good. His times as a second team All-American male were 2 seconds off of the NCAA women's record. So he was 2 seconds slower than the NCAA record as Will Thomas. Now, fast forward, he's transitioned over to a woman and now is competing as a woman in women's sports. Now, when I went to school for my bachelor's in education with my focus in physical education, kinesiology, all that type of stuff. When I went through there, everything was pushed talking about Title IX and how many steps and progress women's sports had made. Now, I'm telling you right now, women's sports is in danger of being just wiped out. There's no point to it if men, after being men their whole lives and training as men, competing as men, can transition in 12 months and go compete as a woman. What's the point? Now, you're going to have people that say, oh, yeah, well, they're equal. There's nothing equal about them. Well, they've gone through blockers and all these hormonal changes. Okay, but you still have, even though you may not be as strong as the best men, you still are able to compete at a level higher than a woman's. It's just true. So here's what I'm getting at. If you look at their latest invitational at University of Pennsylvania, they went through and Will Thomas, now Leah Thomas, competed as a woman in the 200, 500, and 1650. In the 1650, she, Leah Thomas, won the race by 38 seconds. The second fastest time, now remember, these are not slow women. The second fastest time was 38 seconds behind her. And some of her comments were that she was just happy that she can still compete. After transitioning, she's just happy that she can still compete in a sport she loves. Would you stick a normal person that has all their abilities, has all their appendages, they have 2 legs, and put them in a race against someone that only has 1 leg and crutches? No, because it makes them almost impossible for a person on crutches to beat someone else. So why are we allowing someone to ruin women's sports? Because that's exactly what's going to happen at some point. Oh, I forgot about this part here. So in doing so, she sets a Ivy League record in the 1650. So in her invitational, she wins by 38 seconds and sets a record in the 1650. You tell me how that is fair. There's no way that is fair. So you can just count women's sports as being out the window if that's allowed to keep continuing to happen. So that's my rant on it. You tell me what your thoughts are. I'll tell you, Ledecky, which is an Olympian swimmer, women's swimmer, Will Thomas numbers are only 2 seconds off of Ledecky's times. Put that in perspective. Ledecky has the fastest time in NCAA history for women's swimmers. And Will Thomas, which is a second-team All-American Ivy Leaguer, is only 2 seconds slower. How is that fair if he decides, I want to compete as a woman? Now, do I think he went and just transitioned just to compete as a woman? No. But it's still not fair. You grow up your whole life as a man. Now you're going to transition to a female. And after 12 months, hey, I'm allowed now. When they finished the 1650 and Leah Thomas touched the wall, not a soul made a sound. It was completely silent. Second place touched the wall. People erupted in cheers and applaud. Because why? Everyone there knew that what had just happened with the Ivy League record being shattered was that a man that wanted to be a woman had touched the wall. And when the second place team had a real woman touch the wall, and that should be the real winner. Changed my mind. Ramblin' Man, out.